Good evening and welcome to episode 191 of Cantinho Benfiquista podcast. We haven't seen that in a while. Actually, haven't seen it in our lifetime, at least. My dad was alive, but he surely doesn't remember. Oscar's dad's a little bit older. He was alive, maybe remembers. Bill's dad, again, maybe remembers. Yeah, they didn't have TV back then. Off the back of a 4-1 home victory against Porto. First time in over 60 years, or just about 60 years, Benfica scored 4 goals against Porto in the Campeonato. I mean, you can go back all the way to 1999. In the Campeonato, we haven't even scored 3 goals in the Campeonato at home against Porto. So that says a lot. As always, your host, I am Mike. I have Bill. I have Oscar with me. Kenny may join us. Jason is off today. Let's go from left to right. Bill, how are you?
Doing pretty good. I mean, when you come out with a result like that, you can't really can't be down at all. So flying high right now.
I mean, good bounce back after that frustrating performance midweek against Munich. But we'll touch on that. Oscar, hashtag Glorioso is back. How you feeling?
I feel great, man. Beating Porto is like a dream. So I love it.
Dude, not just beating Porto, like destroying Porto. It's a big difference for us.
Yeah, we're not used to being on this end of results like these. Typically, we're the ones coming out getting smashed and embarrassed. Today, we will talk about, of course, Benfica 4, Porto 1. We will sprinkle in some conversation throughout the convo about the Bayern match last week. We'll look ahead to the next 4 or 5 matches for Benfica after this international break. And as always, those of you who are tuning in, please leave us your comments. Let us know that you're watching. Let us know your thoughts. We will also post a link down below in a little bit. And if you want to call in and share your thoughts, you can also join us as well. Or if not, just please stay interactive in the comments section, and we'll do our best to keep up and read your comments. Pedro Vieira says, good evening, guys. Good evening, Pedro. Carrega Benfica. Let's start. Benfica 4, Porto 1. Again, off the back of the result midweek last week against Bayern Munich. Benfica started with, I would say, and you guys can tell me if you think different, but probably our strongest and most balanced 11. Trubin in goal. Carreras, Otamendi, Tomás Araújo, Ba at the back. Tino comes back into the midfield with Auschwitz, Kokshu at the top of the triangle. Aktürkoğlu on the left, Di Maria on the right, and Pavlidis up top. Historically, just touching quickly, home games in the Campeonato between Benfica and Porto. For the Campeonato, Benfica as the home team. In 91 matches between the two of them, Benfica's won 45, lost 27, or tied 27, lost 19. So we've won just under 50% of the home matches in the Campeonato over time against Porto, which is a decent stat, but you would hope that we would have been above that 50% mark, especially at home. We'd scored 174 goals total against them at home in those 91 matches. We've conceded 92. And as I said, you can go back. I mean, going back to 1999 in the Campeonato, Benfica hasn't scored more than 2 goals against Porto at home.
And just remember that 1999 was a game that Porto had already become champions. They're already champions, so they played with a bunch of like subs.
That was that nine. Well, I'm saying 1999. I'm going back to 99. We tied 1-1 that game. I don't know which one you're referring to, but the one
I'm
that I have
referring
up
to
here.
the last time we beat him 3-0. It was like
Oh,
at the end of the Campeonato. It was like in the 90s. 97 maybe, 95, 97. 97.
yeah. So I mean, again, just the fact that we can go back 25 years, and in the Campeonato at home, Benfica has not scored more than 2 goals against Porto is just astounding, right? And we've conceded 2, we've conceded 3 at home, and then away from home is just a completely different story, right? I mean, we've all witnessed in our lifetime multiple 5-goal thrashings
Don't have to
at
look
the
back
Side
too
of
far.
Bernal. So, Oscar, I'll start with you. And I'm going to start from the starting 11 perspective. I think you were the one that in the group chat said, you thought it was our strongest 11. Looking at this 11 and how we lined up and comparing it to how we lined up midweek against Bayern Munich, and I think we all had our opinions about how we lined up and how we alternated the system. Looking back now in hindsight, does it feel more like against Bayern Munich he was looking to try something different, but also in a sense hiding the fact that maybe he was trying to rotate some players with a bigger focus on this game on Sunday?
No, I think against Bayern, what I felt he was doing was you wanted to play with three backs, and the reason why to play with three backs is so you can defend with five. Right? He wanted to defend with five and keep Bayern at it, and then a counter attack because he didn't put Pavlidis in, so that means he wanted to attack with speed. Amadawin, what's his name?
Mduni.
Yeah, Manduni. He's fast. So
Nawi.
you wanted to attack with speed. That's exactly what I thought he was doing, and it doesn't work. It didn't work with Raja. It didn't work with Jesus when he tried it. Well, like at some point it worked with Jesus when the players that he had, but it didn't work with Roger. So I think he learned his lesson. But to me, I think he wanted to defend with five defenders in attack with counterattack. It didn't work out. The thing is that worked for him is we didn't get embarrassed, meaning like playing wise we did, but scoring wise, I think 1-0 away to Bayern is, I mean, it's doable, decent is what people expected, if not more goals, right? But not having one shot on net is bad, is kind of embarrassing for Benfica. Even when we got trashed 5-1 or 5-2, whatever it was, we still had shots on net. But to be honest, I'll prefer a 1-0 with no shots on net than a 5-2 with 5 shots on net.
And the players would get gassed. So looking at this Porto 11, no surprises for you in terms of what he put out there.
No, like I said at the text message before the game started, I think this is our strongest 11. It balances the team with the Tino in the middle, and I think Arsenal is just running around him makes a big difference. And I think that's going forward. If he wants a solid 11, that's it. That's the solid 11. You can switch out guys here and there to rest them on weaker games or cup games, but that's our 11. I think that's our strongest 11. They should continue using.
What was your overall thoughts on the performance
against Porto? I mean, is there any thoughts? I mean, I never in my life did I expect this kind of domination. We absolutely destroyed them every single aspect of the game. The ref tried to help them all by not allowing us the first goal that Pavlidis scored, that he called the foul right before. But even though they should have given like the go ahead because since we won the ball. But dude, it's insane that how bad we dominated Porto. It's something I've never witnessed. Like I've never witnessed. I never expected to witness it. And it just felt so good to give it back to the Portistas that they've been giving us shit the whole time. Especially like my friend in Portugal, Rob Claro. Oh my God, that kid probably wanted to die that day. I gave him so much shit, but it's just fun to give it back a little bit to them. But with this domination, it's insane. It's fun to see the Porto commentators on TV not having an excuse, like legit. Like they usually say the ref this, the ref that.
Yeah, they had nothing.
I
mean, their goal was our mistake.
Our mistake.
Like we gave the goal.
Yeah, correct. So like other than that, and that's the only chance they basically had. That's the only chance they had, and they scored it because we gave them a goal. So it just felt so good to just listen to them, start a fire within because they couldn't bring it out to blame anybody else.
Yeah, I mean, and I've heard a bunch of different excuses, and we'll get into that. Bill, thoughts on this game? Was it what you expected? Not what you expected? I guess probably not what anyone expected.
No,
but
I mean, it was the performance and the way they played was what I hoped for. I think last week I touched on it during the pod. I think I said like we need a performance like we had against Atletico, like just up for it. We may not have like possession 80% of the time, like, but when we do, like, we need to be clinical with it. We need to be able to attack, pressure without the ball, and I think we did all of that, right? I think from the top, like Pavlidis, yep, he didn't score, unlucky with the call on that. I mean, to me, I still don't understand how you don't play advantage where anywhere else on the field you hold your whistle for a few seconds.
I mean, he held it for a little bit, and then when he saw Pavlidis was in, he blew it. If you watch the replay,
yeah,
I mean, great finish too. Like he took a touch and was able to get it up and over. But I think the way he connects play is unbelievable. Like I think the goals will come, right? I think with time
and he gets unlucky. That left-footed blast off the post, like those are bounces. Like you just need one of those.
But I think like just the way he connects the team, creates the space for Di Maria, creates a space for Kerem is immense. Like, and the work he does defensively too. Like he's the first one to press, and then again the midfield. We've touched on Freddie since he arrived at Benfica. This guy, like, it's hard to think about a game where he played where he wasn't like good and solid. Like even if he's not at his like best and like shining, he's still putting in a performance that's better than like 80% of the people on the field, which is insane. And I think having him in that role with Tino behind allows him to kind of cover Di Maria's side defensively. And I think again takes a lot of pressure off Di Maria. And today against Porto, we saw classic Di Maria, right? Like
probably one of the best I've seen.
It's been a while, like a full game. It's been a while since we've seen Di Maria put in a performance like that from start to finish. I mean, he had that touch. I've watched that video like 3 or 4 times, like on the touchline, and he's like jumping and controls it and spit. Like it's just like.
But it also shows like how dependent he is of his left peg. But like the way he twists to bring that down, like how many players end up on their ass outside of the field as they turn and try to bring that down.
It's just unbelievable the way he brings that down, and it's just.
You know what's funny about Di Maria? It's like some players are made for big games, and I think Di Maria is one of them. He always shines on big games. It
he scored last year against Porto at home. He scored in the Supertaça.
For Argentina, he scores always in the finals. That guy is made for big plays.
For Madrid, he scored in 2 finals, I think, for Madrid.
Yeah, like he's unbelievable when it comes to like show up. Like this is a big game. Show up, and he does.
Yeah,
he does.
Yeah, and I think Elijah's done well utilizing like the system that is going to allow him to roam and utilize his skills to the best of his ability, right? Like you don't want Di Maria tracking back 70 yards to defend.
Although he did it a couple times.
He did. But you don't want him to do it consistently because you're going to burn him out. And having Tino and Freddie, if you go back and watch that game, you see
the balancing act.
90% of the time, at least one of them is covering that side for him, and I mean it works. It saves Di Maria's legs and allows him to be lethal going forward.
Well, that's the thing, right? And I think we talked about this last year. Is right. There was a lot of conversation of, and I was one of them that said I felt the Di Maria signing for Benfica was more of the Direção signing him more so than Roger, right? Because he didn't fit the mold.
Yeah.
With that said, right, and I think many people said it, having a Di Maria quality player on your roster should never be a problem, right? There are gaps that he has in his game today that he maybe didn't have 10 years ago, but it's important for the coaching staff to be able to cover up those gaps in certain ways to not make it a liability for the team. And I think last year we weren't able to do that because Freddie was always playing out of position. This year,
we also played a midfield too last year. This year we're playing the midfield.
This year we have Freddie there with Ba being healthy or healthier, at least for now. which allows us to be able to bridge that gap and say, okay, listen, right, like you're not going to have to come back and do 50-yard sprints to defend, right? If you can get back, that's fine, but we have someone at least here with the legs and the capability to fill that gap for you in the event that we need to. So I think that in itself plays a big part in this system. Now, I was going to ask about who was it? Tino. So Tino again has a good performance, right? I think he's an important piece, especially in these big games. But do you guys get the sense that, like, I get the sense that Tino is a guy that's important to Benfica's foundation of how we play. But I also feel like, given the gap in quality, I feel like this year maybe more so. I feel like there's between like the top 4 and then everyone else. I feel like there's a massive gap in quality this year. While Tino, I think, is a must start in these big games, do you guys feel like he's maybe more replaceable outside of the big games because of that gap and the fact that maybe we can give up that recovering player, right? The Tino type player, which is more so to destroy, and play someone that's more offensive minded, versus in the big games, you need that steal in the midfield. You need that recovery guy. Are you guys of that same, like, I get that sense of like, he's super important, but like, could we do without him in some of, 60% of the games?
I mean, we've seen it. He's rotated. When he's rotated, Tino's been one of the ones to come out, and he's played Freddie deeper in that role with then Koksu and someone else. I think Renato did it Renato played one game. But it gives you the, especially games against the lower side teams, and if you're at home, even more. Like away, okay, maybe Tino starts just because they're gonna some fields are smaller. You're not gonna get the same playing surface that you get when you're playing at home. The game might not be as.
And I'm gonna, sorry to interrupt you. Is I get what we're both saying, right? But what I'm trying to compare to is, and I'm not looking to compare players, but I'm just looking at that position is, right? When I think back at like our lifetime of the players that we've seen in that position, at least more recently, right? The Fejas, the Javi Garcias of the world, the Matiches of the world, right? Like, and I would say probably all of those guys were equally destroyers. And when the ball was at their feet, they weren't creative, right? They were the guys that would go there, destroy, read the game well, get rid of it, and give it to someone else. But never, if you look back and you think like, could we do without a Javi, a Matic, or a Feja in 60% of the games? We'd all be like, absolutely not. Like, he's one of the first ones on the team sheet. Whereas I feel like Tino has an equal importance in the way we play, but I don't feel like he's one of the automatics every week in the team sheet. And that's what, like, I'm struggling with understanding of, like, he's important, but we can do without him. And like, is it just because the league and the competitiveness has changed drastically? Is it because the game in itself has changed? Or maybe it's just my perception and that's not what other people are thinking. Oscar, what do you think?
I think we need, Tino is very, very important to us, and I think we just need structure, because we don't want to change the formation or the format of how well we play on how, like, a lot. So by putting Renato Sanchez instead of Tino, it changes completely the game. The game is completely changed to a different, like. But the thing is, I was just looking back at lineups. We had the same exact lineup we had against Porto, against the game we lost 3-1 to Feyenoord, right? The same exact guys playing.
Yep.
I think it's all has to do with like how you position them on the field and all that, because in big games, I agree. Tino is crucial because we need to recover balls and attack quick, and he's good at that type of thing. But I don't know. I'm at a loss on this one. I think we could do it without him being on our lineup against say I don't know, like Santa Clara at home or something like that, right? Yeah. But I just don't like changing the formation.
I agree. I agree with you. But like, it's just right. Like when you think of like, we play at home against Estrela da Amadora for the Taça, for example, right? And let's take away the idea of like rotating for the Taça. But like, I think we could do without having Tino, not because of he's not good enough. It's just because like his characteristics, I feel like against that opposition would maybe slow us down a little bit more, right? Versus you give me Braga, Guimarães, Porto, Sporting, I want Tino in that 11 10 out of 10 times because he's going to give you something that no one else in that midfield is going to give you. So I was curious to know what
but like,
everyone thought.
don't you want to get the game underway? Don't you want to get the game underway and kind of see how? Because sometimes the smaller teams come and all balls out, and then we kind of like I kind of feel like if the game we have a lot of possession and we're just not doing much with it, then take Tino out, put somebody else that can come in. But I don't know if I would just like not put him on the lineup right off the bat, just against those teams. And we have quality to make up for that for the Tino, right? We can't rely. I think
I agree, and right, like you said, it could all be based on, right, like instead of having Tino and Auschwitz in a double pivot, right, you can have Tino by himself and then play Auschwitz and Kokshu further forward, right, together. So, one of your midfields isn't so deep. So, like you said, right, it depends on the dynamic of the team, the positioning of the players, and kind of what space they're occupying. But yeah, I can look at it both ways. I just, again, when I compare it to those lineups with the Fejas and all those guys, and those guys for me were automatic on the team sheet. And when I look at Tino, it's like, why do I feel like, for the smaller games, maybe we could throw another offensive type of player in there. But again, we could potentially lose balance there as well, right?
Yeah.
Guys that are less likely to recover, less likely to sit deeper. So I agree with that. Bill, what were you going to say?
I think Tino to me is like, because he's not a big money player, we didn't pay a lot for him. He doesn't have that it factor in Benfica, and I think
we also like Feja and like Javi, like we didn't really pay much for those guys.
But they were more it's almost like when we had João Mário. João Mário is like, play a bad game, you're out. You're the first one out. We don't like Di Maria could play a bad game, but you want to take him out. Tino is a guy is like, you have a bad game, you're coming out right away because he doesn't have that it factor. And if you mess up a few games in a row, Tino loses his spot. It's happened in the past. He has to be a top of his game at every single game, or else he is the guy to come out.
Yeah, I think it's one of those, like, it's like an enigma type of thing where, like, ever since he came on, like, he burst onto the scenes with Laj that first time, and then like fell out of the squad, like onto the bench, completely like off the team, was loaned out for a few years, came back, started well, fizzled out. Like, I think it just because like he's never been like playing at like a high level for an entire season at Benfica. It's one of those things where like you always like are like hesitant to like, is he the piece that is going to just lock down that spot and that's it? Like you said, Feja and Javi, like those guys, you never fucking questioned.
But I think like part of what Oscar's getting at, and I kind of agree, is Tino's one of those guys that like he rarely goes unnoticed. Like he either has a really good game or he has a really bad game, right? Whereas guys like Javi and Feja, like I almost feel like you never really talked about them because like they just went out and fucking did their shit.
Yeah.
Or like they were rarely the topic of discussion. And again, he's still super young, right? Like you said, Bill, right? Like he hasn't had a consistent run of being a starter year over year, building that consistency, building that experience, and hopefully that comes with time because I think he has the tools in the shed to be a solid player. But that's the piece that I was missing. Is what
I think
Oscar
it's just like
said,
the
right?
fans don't have him, like,
he's either here or here, right? He hasn't found that balance.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he's like when he's on, when he's off, he's just disappears from a game. And like Feja and Javi, those guys, if they were off, they would still like impact in the game. They were more consistent, I think.
Fair. I wanted to talk about, but one thing that I wanted to talk about is, right, Oscar said that, we were dominant. I personally think we controlled the game, although we ended up with less possession than Porto. They ended up with 51% possession. We ended up with 49.
And they're back.
Correct. And in terms of shots, right, we had 16 shots versus 8, 7 on target versus 3. We more actions in their box. We had 20 versus 16, 2 corners, which is surprising. So few corners in a game between these two teams. 10 fouls for Benfica, 13 for Porto. I thought the first half, was fairly balanced. But I felt like Porto didn't do anything. And then we gifted them that goal, which we'll talk about. And then before that, I felt that Benfica was starting to grow into the game, right? We're up 1-0. Benfica starting to grow. And then, of course, we have the fucking stoppage in the game because of the flares on the field, which drives me absolutely nuts. And I'm not saying that's why we conceded the goal, but I feel like in that moment, the team was growing and we killed it. You kill that momentum for like 4 or 5 minutes. And it's just like, why? Why do we keep doing this? And it drives me absolutely nuts. But what I wanted to say is, right, let's just say Benfica was dominant. It was dominant performance. When we contextualize, what we're used to seeing Benfica versus Porto, do you guys think it's more because of Benfica's dominance, or do we think we can attribute some of it to, like, I don't know about you guys, but I feel like this Porto team, is a shadow of the Porto teams that we know, right? Like, not just from a player perspective, but like, I don't see that. We always talk about it. Benfica goes in scared against in these games. Why? Because, Porto always has that raça, that garra, that want to, like, I don't care if you guys are better than us on paper. I don't care if individually you're better than us, but our fight and our desire to want to just fucking bury this game is going to equal out the playing field for us. And, like, I don't feel like this Porto team and just the environment around them is as intimidating as years past. So, Oscar, I don't know if you agree with that, and do you think in part that dominance plays into that?
Let's see. I don't think Porto has been bad this season, and a lot of people saying, like, because this loss, they're gonna, the coach will get fired. Porto's been playing like they only have one loss in the league, and that's against Sporting and now against Benfica. So it's 2 losses now with Benfica. So they've been playing really, like,
well, they've been getting results, and Porto
Correct.
fans have been critical in the sense of, while they've been getting results against the lesser teams, their performances haven't been that great, with the exception of 1 or 2 games here. I think they beat Aroca at home 5-0 or something like that.
And remember the comeback against Sporting for the Super Cup.
Correct.
So, like, they're the only teams this season so far that have a trophy. Right. So, like, we don't win trophies in January or in December. So, like,
Correct.
So they're the only team so far this year that have a trophy, and they have been getting results. So I think just because they lost to Benfica, and that hurts them more than losing 3-4 games to lesser teams, is what the problem is coming from. But I think Benfica, the way Benfica pressed them, didn't allow them to play at all. And usually, and I think it was Rodolfo Reis, is that his name?
Yeah.
The commentator from CMTV. He said Benfica played out Porto and Porto played out Benfica, right? So Benfica played Lugarra, pressing high, never not letting Porto breathe, and Porto basically was the ones that came in scared, and they're like, oh my god, he kept saying it, and the way he said, he was basically insinuating violence. He was like, if I was playing, I would get vermelhos, and
that's his motto. So
yeah.
So he was basically like just shitting on this Porto team because they were too nice, and they were playing like we complain about Benfica, the way Benfica plays usually is like too nice against Porto. They're too scared. That's exactly how I felt, and because Benfica pressed high and didn't let him like get into the game, and it was from minute 1 until those douchebags threw the flares in, and then obviously gave him 10 minutes for Porto to breathe, and then second half was completely destroyed by Benfica.
Yeah. And before I pass it to Bill, do you think the fact that Porto played on Thursday, because that's another thing that people are saying, is Porto played on Thursday in Rome, they had one less day to recover, the fact that 10 starters that started on Sunday played on Thursday as well, and Vitor Bruno didn't rotate accordingly, do you think that played into it? Because they're like, well, if you look at the second half, Porto dropped off a lot, and then there was a comparison of all the teams that played on Thursday, their second halves this weekend were disastrous, and I think was Porto, Guimarães, and Braga, I think was the examples that were given. Do you think that played a part in it, or is that just a game to take away some merit from Benfica? Oscar?
You asking me? Of course. I think that plays a part of it. I absolutely do, because I remember when Benfica played at Opa, I used to always think it was unfair for Benfica to come play after like playing on Thursday and coming to play on the weekend. right? It's just in plus they traveled away to Italy. It's not a long trip, but it's still a trip away. And Bruno Vitor, whatever his name is, Vitor Bruno. Yeah, like he obviously should have thought about the rotation a little bit better. He knew he was playing Benfica coming up on Sunday, and it's going to be a hard game away. I think he should have like rested some players, or But again, he's in Liga Europa, so he wants to win that thing, and he's already lost a few games there. So he doesn't have a lot of leeway or to kind of play around with flexibility. So he probably wanted to win both games, but obviously he doesn't have the team to do that.
He ended up losing both. Bill, before I pass it, I just want to run through some of these comments quickly. Rui Marx, welcome back, my friend. Pedro says, great game. Thoughts on the ref and that call on not giving Benfica the advantage? We already talked about that. He says a commentator says that Benfica played like Porto.
Yeah,
that was what Oscar mentioned, Rodolfo Reis, which pissed me off because I don't know who said. There was someone who was interviewed before.
Bruno Lage said Benfica. Ganhou a Benfica.
Dumbass Rodolfo Reis like, não gosto de mentirosos. Like, dude, he's such a douchebag, dude. I hate that guy so much.
Yeah, man. Mentiu. Eu não gosto de mentirosos. I have to call them up where they are.
Yeah, like, dude, shut up, dude. It's so irritating.
That annoyed me.
I wasn't impressed with Tino in the first half. Great at defending, but clumsy once he had the ball. Passing and moving forward, he was better in the second half. By not starting versus Bayern, Di Maria had plenty of gas for this game. This is true. I think he only came out in the 88th minute or something like that.
You can skip this comment. Skip it.
Who says Joe Mari's trash?
Have you seen the talking about Joe Mari real quick? Have you seen the
Turkish fans are not happy about him.
Besiktas fans are like turning on him already.
He's getting the better ratings out of everybody on the team.
Rui says Tino's only as good as the two players that are in front of him. I agree with that, right? Like we saw a lot of times last year when him and João Neves played together, and João Neves was stretching it, and Tino was basically a one-man band.
But you were asking him to do something he can't do.
Trying to do a lot. I think right now Benfica and Sporting are a spot above Porto, even at Europa League, and Porto struggling. I'm going to bookmark this question or this comment because this is one of the questions that I have. So Pedro, we're going to dive into this, and I want to get your thoughts as well. Bill, what are your thoughts on what I had asked Oscar in the sense of one less game for recovery, this current squad, the kind of context around it? Do you agree with Oscar?
Yeah, I mean, the one less day, it definitely plays into it a bit. I don't think as much as the Porto fans want it or making it out to be. Like the level of like nutrition and recovery that these guys get is second to none, and I don't think it plays a bit of a part in it, right? You have one less day, but I don't think it's the reason for them getting blown out in the second half. I think it plays into it a little bit, but not as much as they want to kind of hold on to it and just like holding on to it and saying, yeah, this is why we had one less day. This is our excuse. But I don't agree with the Porto take, right? I think this Porto doesn't feel like the Porto of Sérgio Conceição's and Pinto da Costa. Like it feels a bit different, and like you said, Mike, the raça and the garra. Like I've watched a few Porto games, and you've seen it a little bit, but it's not to the intensity that you would see with Sérgio Conceição and all his goons, if you will, on the bench, because he had a ton of them. But this team does not feel like that. The Porto teams of old, and then the teams that we grew up with playing against, and like you said, like we would come into games, and the majority of the time we were the ones that felt like we were scared of the environment and couldn't adapt to how they pressed and how they played and how aggressive they were. And I mean, this game, we were the ones that were on the front foot. We were the ones that were aggressive. We were the ones that were pressing from the get-go. But this Porto team doesn't feel like those Porto teams of old. And it just the DNA of the team doesn't feel like it's there. And it could be just because they're again trying to distance themselves from all that other shit that was going on in the past and all the stuff with the clocks and the old president and all that. I think there's definitely a different air to Porto this year. And again, I think that showed in the game. This Porto isn't the team of old.
And I think, at least from my perspective, I think a piece that plays into that is like, Oscar, who would you say in this Porto squad is like the reference player for you today? Like, I feel like they don't have like a Pep. Like, take out Diego Costa, right? Take him out of the equation.
I mean, playing wise, Samu right now is the guy playing. But
not playing wise, but like someone that's like a leader.
That's going to get them going and is going to step up and lead by example type of thing. And
I mean, they have Galeno, they have Pep.
I know, but he's not like a leader. Pepe was hurt. I mean, he's been hurt. He's an important player, but like I don't like those are the guys. Those guys, like when I think like back,
Varelas could be a leader. Varelas could be that guy.
Like I think of like guys like Uribe, guys like Herrera, Pep.
You
like
don't see
those
Varela,
Maxi Pereira. Who? Varela, I don't know. I feel like he's got the Argentinian flair, but like I don't feel like he's like that guy that's gonna like grab the team by the scruff of it. Like, and that's what I feel like Porto's missing is like, you know, they got guys out there like Ostakius. Like those guys for me don't scream like leadership, and like when fucking shit hits the fan, you know, they're gonna grab their teammate by the shirt and be like, you need to fucking buckle up. Like we're gonna get this shit done. Like I feel like that's one big piece that Porto's missing today is especially with the departure of Pep, is like they're missing that, you know, Otavio, Pedro says here, Otavio, another guy, right? Like those guys that like they're just fucking nuisances, and they're guys that you don't want to play against, right? Like, would you like to have them on your team? Probably not, but you know they would add value. But they're definitely guys that you don't want to play against because of that mentality and that mindset. And like I feel like Porto's missing that. Like even if you asked me to name Porto's 11 today, I probably couldn't name more than like 6 or 7. And if you asked me over the course of the last 20, 25 years, I could probably name their whole starting 11 over those years. I don't know if you guys, maybe Oscar, you can. Yeah.
I mean, I would have to look at the lineup right now to find out who starts.
Yeah, which is odd, right? Because I mean, I think we can all agree that if we went back over the years, we could have probably easily named Porto starting 11, you know, year after year. And like when I look at it on the team sheet, you got Martin on the right, which was a young kid. He had just come in. Nejuan Perez, which is new. Thiago Jaló, Moura, Galeno, Eustáquio, Nico, Varela, Fabio Vieira, and Samu, right? Like, I just feel like when we look at the Benficas and Portos of years past, right, typically we always talked about like Benfica always gets like the soft type of player, talented, and Porto gets like technical, that fucking the guys that are just going to run through walls.
Yeah.
And like I feel like when I look at this Porto squad, I feel like they've got a lot of that finesse that we always talked about, is like, you know, the twinkle toes and, you know, the softer players. And they don't have, for me, I couldn't pick out a guy here apart from Samu, just because of his physical status. Like the guy's a monster. I mean, he was next to Otamendi at one.
He's also only 20 years old.
Yeah, but like what I'm saying, like size wise, he made Otamendi look tiny. When he stood next to him, I was like, holy shit, dude, he's huge. But apart from him, like I couldn't pick out someone else that I would say like, you know, that guy is like a physical specimen and he's just going to run through people. So definitely there's a lot of change here, which leads me into this next question is, and what Pedro talked about here. Do you guys feel like, given the current state and the transition that Porto is going through today, or has been going through over the course of the last 6 months, do you think this could begin a new phase of Portuguese soccer where, you know, in the past, you know, over the last 20 years, we've seen, or maybe more, we've seen Porto and Benfica battling, right? And unfortunately, Porto's come out more often than not on top than we have over the course of the last, just say, 25 years. Do you guys feel like there could be a new phase here where over the course of the next 5-10 years, it could be Benfica and Sporting battling it out, and Porto ends up being that third place team that, you know, comes into second place, but kind of is a step down from the Sportings and Benficas, given kind of the infrastructure that they have at the moment? Oscar?
I don't think Porto ever goes away. I know they changed presidents, but I think Villas-Boas is a guy like that will get this team back on track. I know they have the financial problems where they couldn't get players or buy players because of the UEFA problems that they had and all that. But I think once they clear all that crap out, I think they'll just get back on track. Porto has got the DNA. They're not going to go anywhere. I think there'll be a better chance. Me thinking it'll be a better chance for Sporting dropping from the cliff than before Porto does.
He's still hopeful of that, huh?
The cliff. It's still we're coming up on it. You started 3 years ago. Coming up on the cliff. It's coming.
I mean, it'll
The
get
GPS
there.
was just wrong. It's getting there.
Bill,
though.
do you agree?
I mean, I think the potential's there, right? Their financial issues and now new Direção and everything, like there is the potential that like a few bad buys, like when you try to rebuild the team and strengthen the team, and you're like you miss on a few like big signings, could lead you down a path of like you're throwing a few years to out the window and then you try to rebuild again. Like there's the potential for them to I wouldn't say fall off the cliff, but drop down a pecking order from what we're used to in the last 20, 25 years. It's there more than ever. I think they're in a very like delicate spot right now where like the transfers they can make and the money they do spend, it needs to be spent wisely, and they need to hit pretty solid on these transfers. Like if they go out and spend and don't hit, like if Samu, right, you spend the 15 with the way it's broken out, like it's pretty obvious you're going to end up they're going to end up spending around 30 for him. Like if they missed on that, like that's fucking like almost like a nail in the coffin type of thing for them.
And even if they hit with it, right, they only have, I think, 50%.
Right. But
Right,
you're
so, like,
you're looking at it from more of like a not necessarily financial return, but like, can this guy bring
correct?
like,
But in
titles and
turn,
trophies? Yes.
that financial investment in him is the hope that they can
Turn around and
eventually
make a
flip that
profit.
and get some money to help
Yep.
with this financial situation, which they lose 50% of that right off the bat,
Yeah.
which sucks for them. But I think it just illustrates very well the financial ruins that they're in, right? Like, and that's why I think it's going to be a big problem for them. And then Pedro says here, I think it's the new Porto, completely different from last season. This is year 0 for Porto. I think the Supertaça gave Porto fans a false hope. I 100% agree with this last statement. Is I know Porto came back from that match, but I mean, let's be honest. Porto had no business coming back in that match. De Bost had a disastrous performance in that game. What were they down? 3-0, if I'm not mistaken?
3-0 at half.
Yeah, 3-0, and they came back and won, right? Like that's AC Milan, Liverpool type vibes in Istanbul, right? Like, and for me, right, like for a team to lose a game after being up 3-0, for me is more demerit from the team that was winning than merit for the losing team. Like 3 freaking goals. Like you got to suck really bad to lose a 3-goal difference, right? And I think we can all agree that Porto is nowhere near as good as Sporting is current day, right? Again, one match is one match, right? Every match is different. But I agree with Pedro here. I think that Supertaça game gave Porto fans a false hope. I think the gap is significant enough still between the top 3, top 4 teams and everyone else, where I think Porto will be able to get wins here, wins there. Might not be pretty, might not be, the type of games that fans will want to see. But I'm of the opinion that I think because of the financial problems, and I'm of the opinion that because of those financial problems, they ended up with Vitor Bruno because they don't have money to go get someone else. So I think that in itself starts that process. But I think going back to kind of the original question, I think we could see, depending on what happens in January and next summer for Sporting, I think we could see a period where the next 3 to 5 years where Porto's going to take a lot of work to get back on their feet. And I think we could see a Benfica Sporting back and forth over the course of the next 3 to 5 years until Porto kind of gets their way back in, because I think they're so deep in financial ruins that I think it's going to take a lot more than what I think Villas-Boas was actually anticipating. And then once he actually got in the room and looked at everything around, when he got access to the bank accounts, he was like, "Oh, this that's me like 8,000 euros.
Where's the money?
Where's the money? Is there another bank account? You guys didn't share the credentials?"
And another thing is, like, who do they have to make money back? Like
That's
you
the
said,
thing.
Samu is only 50%.
Diogo Costa.
Diogo Costa is the only one
Costa is the only
because
one.
he's from the academy, so it's all
And
profit.
Galeno. I think Galeno will get them some money.
Yeah, but like Galeno's been there around and around. I think they talked
I mean, it
about
was
selling.
the 60 this past summer was the big.
Well, that was
Yeah,
the
but
talk,
I'm not
right?
sure.
Yeah,
I'm
but
not
like
sure
I
they'll
could
get
see
it
them
again.
getting maybe at this point, maybe 40 for Galeno, right? And that's the thing is Porto's in such a financial strap that like the buying clubs now are like, listen, this is what we're gonna give you, right? Like I
Yeah.
feel like Porto loses all that negotiating power, right? Because it's like we know you guys need money, so we'll give you 40, right? You know, give or take. So I agree with you, Oscar. Right? Like looking at the lineup that they put out there this week, Diogo Costa and Galeno, for me, are really the only ones that are going to get them money. And even
Samu.
between the two of those, how much are you going to get?
Well, like Diogo Costa,
Samu.
but like a keeper, how much is a keeper actually gonna like be sold
I mean,
for? Like
you'd be surprised. In England, they go for a top dollar. I mean, like you
What would
probably
you say,
get
50?
50, 60,
50,
yeah,
60,
for a goal.
yeah.
Yeah. And that's like best case scenario, right? And like, and again, Galeno, 30, 40, right? But then like everyone else, right? And then like,
Fabio Vieira is on loan, right?
correct. He's Arsenal's. Yeah.
All right.
But again, he's not. I don't think he would turn into a big transfer either way.
João Mari, the right back, I know that he had potential. I'm not sure. I think he was hurt. He just came back.
He came in after,
He just came back from being injured because he has potential. I think he did.
And
really
isn't
well.
the Nico kid? He's Barca's, right? Or did they buy him from Barca?
They bought him, I think, for cheap.
Did they?
But then they also don't forget, like they have Otavio. They went and bought for 20 million last year from Famalicão, and now he doesn't even sit on the bench. Like,
Yeah,
it's just
they've had some bad transfers.
They've had over the last 2 years, they've had some big money transfers that are on loan now at this point.
My scare, and I keep thinking that they don't know what they're doing, so they might lose it now that they don't have Hugo Viana and Ruben Amorim and whatnot. Is like Sporting is going to have some good money to spend. Let's see if they buy right, because the Gyökeres the backup of Gyökeres is just as good, if not like just a class below.
Well, give him time. I think it's still too early.
Yeah, but he's still up there. The guy looks just like him, and he plays just like him. Piece of shit.
Correct, but coming off the bench, right? Petar Musa was
different.
really good off the bench, and then playing as a starter was.
And then the midfield, the Danish.
Hjulmand's good.
Hjulmand's really good.
He's really good. So yes, and then they always have the Pedro Gonçalves, Pot, and all that. Trincão is Trincão theirs now or long?
Yeah,
he's theirs, but they only own 50%. Barcelona is rumored to want to give them the rest of the 50% to buy Gyökeres, bring down the fee.
Yeah, because Trincão is playing out of his fucking.
He's having a good season. He's really like the Braga days.
Yeah, so like Sporting has, then they always have Inácio who has a high market. Like they have a lot of players. If they go, Sporting can make a ton of money, and depending on and then they have the guy that just got called the Seleção, Kenta or whatever his name is. Kenta. So like that's a lot of players that they can fucking make good money.
And that's where I feel like they have the ability to be, between the Benfica and Sporting because of the money that they could potentially have. But again, right, spending it wisely, right? Benfica's had some big sales and we haven't always spent it wisely, right? So,
and finding the next manager, because I'm not convinced.
Correct.
The thing is with Sporting is like, I don't know, I haven't looked at their salaries, but compared to Benfica's salaries, it's insanely smaller.
Like, correct. But that also, you have to remember what plays in part of that is Sporting's won 4 titles in the last 44 years, right? Like, with winning titles and the expectations being higher, right? And you going to buy players from the outside, then the expectation is those salaries end up getting higher, right? Or you basically say, I can't go out and buy X, Y, and Z player because the salary cap is here, right? So all of that, your success also plays into how much, right? Same with any other business, right? If my business is successful, I can afford to pay higher salaries because I'm making more money. So I think if Sporting continues on this trend and they are able to sell these assets that they have for big money, I feel like that expectation when they buy players is they're going to have to figure out, like, do we want to raise our salary cap, right? Our top, or do we want to maintain? And I think that will be a big decision for them of, are they able to then compete with the Benficas and the Portos of the world, or do they want to maintain where they're at? But I think that also comes with success.
Now looking at our squad, who do you think has gone valued and that to be a good sale possibly for us?
I mean,
Right now,
Koglu just out of the gate.
Ortoglu, yeah, that base
Auschwitz.
also. The thing is that Arsenal is like, I don't see a club coming in like, hey, here's 60 million for him.
I don't think 60, but for what we paid for him, I could see like a 25, 30 million, right?
Yeah,
I'm not saying, but like in comparison to what we paid,
he's worth every single penny, but he doesn't have that.
Mazarouju is a guy that
to me, Tomas is the one that's probably
Carreras, we were unfortunately has that 20 million cap, but I think he's one.
With Tomas, I don't think the club will come in and like Antonio Silva. They were hyping him up, and then now he's on the bench. I think Tomas, they'll give him a whole season to find out how he really is. It's not like after 5 games that he's going to be a superstar.
Correct. I'm not saying right now. I'm saying I think are on the path to be able to do right.
Di Maria is not going to get us any money, so Di Maria is probably.
Everyone talked about Gonzalo Inacio. Everyone wanted Gonzalo Inacio, and lo and behold,
he's still there.
Fucking Sporting.
Yep.
So. Yeah, but I think they gotten offers from me. They just didn't let him go. I mean, it's good. It's also good that the bank is, forgive him for paying back.
Correct. It makes it a little bit easier.
Helps.
Yeah.
When you get free money, it's easy.
Yeah. When your creditors say, hey, you know what, the 100 million that you had in debt, forget about it. Yeah, we're gonna shake hands. Right then, you're like, shit. All right, so I just got 100 million that I can go spend again. Okay, let's do it. So obviously that plays a big part in it, naturally. But I agree. I think we've lost. We don't have as many players that we can sit there and look at and say, okay, that's an 80 million plus player, right? That's a Darwin, that's an Enzo, that's a Jean Philippe, right? Like, I don't think we have any of those today. But I do think we have some valuable players, but I think in comparison to what we're used to selling at, I think we're well below what we're all accustomed to. But I think those are also rare situations, right? I think, just look in the last 10 years, how many players have gone for that much money, right? Like probably less than a dozen, maybe less than 10, right? Not many go for over 100 mil. Right, like,
and we just happen to have like 3 of them.
Correct.
I can actually see. If it continues this way, I can actually see Carreras going for quite a bit.
Unfortunately, but the thing is, Man United has that 20 million cap on them. So if we want to sell, Manchester United has the option to buy him for 20 million. If they don't want him for 20 million, then I think he has the potential to be worth more. But part of the package of us being able to get him for so cheap was that contingency of that 20 million, which, I mean, 20 million for a left back isn't a bad deal.
Right.
So it is what it is. Quickly, on last piece on this game is the Portugal. How do you guys interpret this situation? Otamendi and Trubin get caught there. Bill, I'll start with you on this one. Who do you think is at fault here?
To me, it's the defender, right? When you look, you see it like consistently in games where keepers will be coming out to get a ball and the center back just clears it, right? And it's one of those things where it, like, when in doubt, the defender will just play it out. Like, you just don't hesitate on that. And of all players on the field, your most experienced player, or one of your most experienced player, pulls something like that where, like, 99% of the time in his career, that ball is long gone, nowhere near the goalie. Like, there's no question about, like, how you defend it.
How do they say it, Oscar? Pagestas?
Pagestas, yep. Yeah. And he, for whatever reason, and that's, like, he hesitated, which then, like, his foot goes in. Yeah, well, his foot goes in, Trubin pulls back, Otamendi pulls back, and the ball just, like, to me, it's on the defender. Like, it's not, and I'm not just piling it on because Otamendi's had a ton of mistakes this year. To me, it wouldn't matter who it was. That scenario for me, it's 100% on the defender. Like, if you have any doubts if your keeper's, like, gonna get there on time, or if the attacker's too close, just get rid of it. You just boot it and you reset and you move on. Yeah. And he, for whatever reason, he hesitated, and I mean, it doesn't. I watched the goal a couple of times. It doesn't look like Trubin says anything, right? Like, calls him off of it. Nor does Trubin make a movement to make you think that he said something. I just think it was Otamendi saw him in his peripheral view,
and got caught in two minds of like, I'm going to stop it, and then saw him and was like, fuck, I'm going to leave it. And then when he got up, realized, fuck, he wasn't going for it. I should have punted it. Oscar, what do you think? Well, I think I know what you think, but tell the people what you think.
No, I've had a lot of time to think about it.
Calm down.
I was really mad. I was really mad at the beginning when I first saw that play. I thought all my nightmares came true, like of Otamendi coming to Benfica to screw Benfica. So,
Oscar's conspiracy theories
the long
got
play.
started up
It's
again.
the long play.
so
All right, it's coming back.
It took 3 years, and I'm like, here it is. I knew it. I knew this was gonna happen. He was gonna fucking screw Benfica.
Double
He's
agent.
gonna score
4
own
years.
goals.
They were over them. That they were killing them. Here it comes Otamendi to screw Benfica because to me it looked like he looked back and he saw the player there, and then he pretended to put the foot, brought it back, and then I'm like, you motherfucker, there he is. He fucked it up, and then I had a lot of time to think about it. He did play well right after that. Like he played a really good second half. Like he was a garra that he had was. I'm like, all right, let me breathe a little bit and give him the benefit of the doubt just because we won 4-1. Now, if we had lost,
100% conspiracy theory was on ready to go.
If we had lost, that motherfucker would be in the first flight back.
When that goes in, I was like, here, literally, I was like, here we go. Like, we're playing well, we're controlling the game. Porto hasn't done anything. We've hit the post, we've scored a goal that they called back. Like, and I'm like, this, and of course, like it goes in, and I'm like, here it fucking goes. Like our wheels are gonna fall off, and this shit's gonna like turn into the results we've seen in past. Like, just one stupid mistake, and that's it. We're fucked. And thankfully, dude, thankfully it didn't. But to me, that's on him.
But I'll tell you,
I've calmed down from the game, like Oscar has, because I think all of us on that text message were all like, "What the fuck." Not to the conspiracy theories that Oscar goes to. That's just his own world. But we've all like vented about Otamendi this year, and like for it to be him again in a game of this magnitude with how we were playing and how things were going, I was like, dude, like this is costing. Like if this costs us this game, he's got to go to the bench. Like, and I still think he might need to be taken out for a bit,
rested, but not take the bench. I think we need a leader, and we don't have one right
no,
now.
I agree. Like the way he leads is second to none. But
stop slide tackling when he doesn't have to slide tackle. You just fucking kick the ball away. Don't fucking have to make it look pretty, and you'll be fine.
And that's the thing that's concerning to me. It's the mistakes he's making aren't like you're just getting burned by pace or something. Like your old age is kind of showing. It's like mental
breakdowns.
It's like mental things. And it's like from a guy like that experience, like those are like the last things you'd expect. And Remax is talking about, you're saying Pepe. I thought it was Pep. Like, but Pep, guy's old as hell, couldn't keep up with anyone. But like the experience of like knowing where to
up. You see him in the fucking World Cup.
Or
the Euro,
and then puking all over the place.
Nitro, dude.
Game, but he kept up with the guy on the wing. It was in Dembele, wasn't it?
Yeah, I don't remember who it was. There was one game that he fucking pace for pace, dude.
It was Dembele.
The guy's gonna die,
dude. It was on the wing.
I was waiting for the wheels to just all fall off the wagon
as he's running.
It still bumped him off the ball later.
And that wasn't that in overtime too?
It was at the end of the game. Yeah,
it might have been an extra time. Yeah. But I mean, you just guys like that experience, like the mental mistakes and positioning, like that's the last thing you'd expect, and that's what's most concerning to me with just not this mistake, but like the ones he's had this season and the tail end of last year. He had a few as well. Like that's what's concerning to me.
Pedro makes a good point. Otamendi didn't have an off season. Do you think that's affecting his play? I think it's naturally, especially at this age.
Also, his doing.
I mean, I don't understand why they had to go to freaking Olympics. Like
he wanted to. He essentially like begged Benfica to let him go.
Fast, the club or him?
I mean, we've talked about this before. I can understand it, but in turn, right? Maybe Benfica, and again, right? Bruno Lage is basically just reaping what was planted at this point, right? He wasn't the coach, but with the idea of him going to the Olympics, maybe there was a different way to manage his minutes, right? To give him some of that freshness back. But I don't doubt that the fact that he had no off. I mean, hasn't really had an off season for a little while now.
I mean,
right?
most
Like,
of these
I mean,
guys don't anymore.
this year he had Copa America and the Olympics,
Yeah.
right? And then last year we had what, the World Cup,
the World Cup.
But that,
right?
that was
Mid-season.
that was in winter.
Yeah, but
Fair.
even going through a full season, they get what, 3 weeks off? Like
Not only that,
nowadays,
because
there's no
the World
like
Cup-
off season like it was in back in the
because
day.
the World Cup, because the World Cup happened in the winter that month. A lot of games got like
Pushed.
The season were
Yeah,
longer,
the season was longer.
and
Yeah.
the season this year is going to be longer too because you had the Club World Cup.
Yeah, which is in
So again,
June
Club World
until
Cup at the end
July.
of the season.
So you basically
only have
I,
2
I,
months
I doubt
before
Otamendi
preseason.
will be at the, I doubt Otamendi will be at the Club World Cup.
You don't think so? Well, if he leaves in January, obviously not. But
Yeah.
rumor is that he's not leaving till the end of the season now. But
But if he
time will
leaves at the end
tell.
of the season, he could probably leave before the Club World Cup, which just happens in the summer, right?
No, because their contracts
Transfer windows.
there's an extension to their
Yeah.
contract till typically your contract will run out to the end of June, but there's an extension because
This
of the Club
season.
World Cup till the end of the Club World Cup. So it's
So there's no
actually July.
transfers until after.
There's nothing
July.
saying he could leave. They could transfer him before the Club World Cup because the transfer window's still there.
Is River Plate happen to be playing on the Club World Cup?
No, I think
I don't think they are.
I think it's Boca is the
Um,
only Argentinian team. I think.
Because if they are, he probably goes back in the same plane.
let me see. Teams qualified. River Plate's in it. Yes.
Are they?
Yeah, so he goes back.
Yeah.
So he goes back in that plane.
So he's playing either way, whether he's playing for us
Yeah.
or whether he's playing for
No,
them.
he'll play for us, but he goes back with them on that.
At the
plane.
as soon
Yeah,
as
there
it's
you go.
over, he goes back to
Yeah.
Argentina.
He
with
gets
them.
on their
Yeah.
team charter and
Yeah.
goes back. Very possible. Closing out this game, man of the match for you, Bill.
Hands down.
It's. I think everyone's going to say Di Maria, but dude, I think someone on the Portuguese podcast today mentioned like Tomás, Freddie, and Di Maria. Like those three played unbelievably, but yeah, I think Di Maria with the goals, the performance he put in, I think you give it to him, but I wouldn't take it away from anyone saying Freddie deserves it or Tomás deserves it. Like, I think those three to me kind of stood out more than
One dude.
I already said it. Di Maria.
All right. Don't be Switzerland and stand on the fence.
Yeah,
Oscar, who's your
I
pick?
to me, there's no question about it. Di Maria scored 2 goals, and one of them is crucial, the 2-1.
Yeah.
I think he shows up for these big games. Ultimately, obviously, you said that Arsenal's had a really good game. I think he did too. But Araujo had, other than that pass and the fake that he had in the middle of the field, they didn't have much work to do defensive wise.
Yeah, I
defensively.
agree.
So
I mean, Tomás assisted on the first goal, put Ba in, that led to the own
correct.
goal.
No, he did
Like,
fine, but his job is to defend.
No, I agree.
not to
But I
attack.
mean,
Yeah.
So he did play good. Those
Defensively, he didn't have
balls,
much.
but to me, Di Maria did his part, what he should do, and to supreme. Like I think he was phenomenal that game.
I agree. I'm gonna just say I agree with Di Maria, but to be different, I'm gonna say I thought Tino had a good game. I think there was a couple moments where his passing wasn't great, but I think just in terms of the recovery, the occupancy of space, reading the game, I thought he was important to us to just give us a little bit of steel in that midfield. So I would give it to him. Di Maria's goal point rating was an 8.6, which is the man of the match. Tino at a 6.9, Tomás at a 7.0. But I agree with Oscar. Like, I think there's a couple moments in the second half where I know Otamendi went pound for pound with Samu, which is, I remember I mentioned to you guys, like he made Otamendi look tiny in a couple of those plays. But I agree. There's not, like, I can't think of a defensive moment where, you could say shit, right? Like Tomás came up huge, right? Or Otamendi made like a massive tackle that made a big difference. So I agree with Oscar's approach. So I'll be different than you guys. I'll say Tino, but I think there's maybe 2 others that we could have easily put in this discussion for their performance. Just to quickly finish off here, Benfica's game's coming up. So currently we're 3rd place in the league, 25 points. We got 1 game in hand. We got Nacional away, which will be played in December. If we are to win that game, we are at 28 points. We'll be 2nd place, putting us 5 points back of Sporting. Our upcoming matches are fixtures. So upcoming after the international break, we've got Benfica Estrela for the Taça de Portugal at home on the 23rd. We then go away to Monaco. We're at home to Aroca for the Campeonato, at home to Guimarães for the Campeonato, at home to Bologna for the Champions League, and then we've got AVS away, Nacional away, Estoril at home, Sporting away, and Braga at home. But let's just look at the next 5. So Estoril at home for the Taça, Monaco away, Aroca at home, or Aroca away, Guimarães at home, and Bologna at home. So that's 5 matches. I would say the most difficult one out of these 5 is Monaco away. I know Aroca could be a tough one, but they're like 14th place, or they're one spot away from the relegation zone. Guimarães having a good season, but it's a home game. Bologna at home again. I mean, I don't want to jinx us, but it gives me Feyenoord vibes, of the sense of like, at home against a Bologna team, we should be winning this game. There's no excuses for it. Estrela da Amadora at home for the Taça. Again, I think we should win. The Monaco game, I think, is going to be the most challenging, just given their current state. They're currently 3rd in the Champions League. New format. They've got 3 wins, 1 draw. They beat Bologna away last match day. They beat Red Star Belgrade at home 5-1. They tied away to Dinamo Zagreb, and they beat Barcelona 2-1 at home in the first match day of the Champions League. Oscar, what are your expectations here for these next 5 games? And do you think in these next 5 games we could continue to build some momentum for a month of December that has us going to Sporting and playing at home against Braga?
We talked about this before the Bayern game. I believe I said we said like November is going to be a very challenging month for us. I wanted not to get embarrassed with Bayern just and kill Porto. That came true, right? That's exactly what we said last thing. Like, don't get embarrassed against Bayern and just put it all against Porto, and we did. I did say we might lose 2 games in the month of November. I'm just so afraid of Monaco. But if we can get through Monaco, I think the other games are wins. For the 5 you mentioned.
Okay. I agree. Like I said, I think Monaco's the question mark here, but I think still at home, Aroca away, Guimarães at home, and Bologna at home, for me, like, have to be wins. Bill, what do you think?
No, I agree. Yeah, I think the Monaco, and again, if you go back and look, like when we did the predictions for Champions League, I don't think any of us thought Monaco was gonna like be where they were. Like, yes, it'd be a tough away match because it's an away day in Europe. Like, it's never easy, but Monaco, in the position they are right now and the way they've been playing, it is the toughest game. Outside of that, I think those are all games we should be winning. And the Monaco game, that Feyenoord game to me is going to hopefully it doesn't come back to bite us in the ass, because that should have been 3 points and would have made this Monaco game a little less, a little less important. But I think it's a game
but Bill, just remember, the Atletico Madrid game should have been a loss too. I think that the Feyenoord and
should have been more difficult than it was.
Right. Team-wise, Atletico is a Champions League team.
But I think what we've also seen is, like, this new format, I feel like, has thrown a lot of curveballs in the sense of, like, Manchester City goes away to Sporting and loses, right? Aston Villa beats Bayern Munich and then loses away to Club Brugge, right? Barcelona loses match day 1, away to Monaco, and then beats Bayern 4-1, right? So, like, I feel like we've seen so many Real Madrid, right? Like, Real Madrid lost to Milan at home, lost to Lille away, comes back after being down against Dortmund, right, and wins 5-2, right? So, like, I feel like at least in this format, we've seen so many crazy scenarios of big clubs and little clubs that, like, I feel like, I don't know if it's because teams are maybe more prone to rotate a little bit more because there's more games, right? And there's more opportunity for qualification. I don't know, but, like, I feel like these games are more of a toss-up than maybe they would be in normal circumstances, where it's, 4 teams in a group, you get 6 matches, and you need to, get points. So, I think this match is, and Monaco's in second place in Liga. with 23 points, 7 wins, 2 draws, 2 losses. They're 6 points off of first place PSG, who's got 29. So they're a team that scores goals. They've got 18 goals in the league. They've conceded 8. In the Champions League, they have scored 10 and they've conceded 4. And that big bulk came against Red Star Belgrade at home. Other than that, they scored 2 against Zagreb, 2 against Barcelona, and 1 against Bologna. So in the Champions League, they haven't scored as much apart from that one outstanding game. But yeah, I think I agree with Oscar. I think, and you, Bill, I think this Monaco game in the next 5, I think, is the most challenging. But outside of that one game, I think the other games should be positive results for us, or the expectation is that there'll be positive results. But time will tell. We are off next week because we've got stupid international break right now.
And that's what sucks too about the international break. I hate playing after international.
So that was going to be my last question to close this out. Is we beat Porto 4-1 at home. Teams on a high again, right? And then I can't remember what was the last game before the last international break. Do you guys remember off the top of your head?
It was right now that we just played. Isn't right after we played 500?
Oh, it was Atletico Madrid. We beat Atletico Madrid 4-0. Yeah, because we played them on the 2nd of October, and then our next game was against Pavide for the Taça on the 19th, right? So again, you go into this high where you smash Atletico Madrid, and then you're off for 2 weeks, right? And then you come back and you play against Pavide and then lose to Feyenoord, right? And then here you beat Porto at home 4-1. Right, and a historic result because we haven't scored that many goals in 60 years, and now we got another international break, and it's just like, just when we need that momentum, they take our legs out. So, do you think, Oscar? Do you think this has a negative impact, or does it take a little bit of air out of that balloon that we get?
It does, because we do have a lot of players that go out and international break. Another thing is Bruno Lage. I mean, he gets to work a little bit more with the players that stay, but those are not the important players that you need to work and keep the momentum going.
So I actually have a list of the players that stayed.
Let's go a shit ton of B team
players
called up.
Well, there weren't actually.
There's the U21s that also go as well. So all those guys go for U21 too.
So you'll be surprised. I was actually surprised. So who he has at his disposal from the A team: Samu, André Gomes, Carreras, Best, Tino, Renato, Auschnitz, Rollheiser, Prestiani, Di Maria, and Artur Cabral. So he's got a decent amount of first team players, right? Out of all those, starters wise, you got Carreras, Tino, Auschnitz, Di Maria, right? So only 4
does
starters.
Auschnitz not go to international?
No, he gave up the international team last year.
Or 2 years ago.
Yeah,
Isn't Carreras U21 for Spain?
Yeah, but they must not have games during this international break.
I thought our Portugal team has games, the U21 team.
Maybe I know that was the list. He wasn't there.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So I mean, he's still got some decent players to play with, but again, not your starting 11, so it doesn't give you much to work
with. And not only that, and then they just come back and they seem like they need another 2 weeks to catch up to what they were doing. So it just kills the momentum, especially games like you said, after Atletico Madrid, we dominated and we played really well. And if we just play the next game, if we play Feyenoord right after Atletico Madrid, like a week after, we would kill them. We would win. But no, we have
I don't think it helped that after that Atletico game, and then when we came back and we played Pavilion, he just none of the normal starters even got playing time. I think he should have, I think he should have given them some minutes to get some rhythm back, because those guys, our normal 11 didn't play together until the Feyenoord game, and then you could see there was
Do you think we'll see that against Stadilla?
I'm hoping
because we go back into it in a cup game. Although Stadilla is a different opponent than Pavide.
Right. You can rotate the squad. I'm fine with that, but I didn't like how none of them played. None of them got any kind of minutes. There was nothing a lot of them didn't even travel. I think being off that long with international 2 weeks plus another week, you don't play together in that weekend, and then you played in the Feyenoord game. That was one of our poor performances with this lineup that has been playing well together for, I'd say 90% of the time, right? Like that game just like stuck out how badly we played. And I think it was maybe some rust with some of the guys playing with each other. I mean, not playing with each other for
we just have to get over that hump because I'll tell you, the players in Monaco probably get called for the national team too. So like they just have to get over that hump of like coming back and just, hey, listen, we're now Mudaru chip and let's go. Now it's Champions League and we're playing hard again.
Yeah,
That's
and
it.
off the back of 2 defeats in the Champions League, and with the next match being against Bologna at home, like we have to get points out of this Monaco game. So I'm hopeful that we can get back into our stride against Strela and take that momentum into the Monaco game, a game where we will have some members of our group at the match. So hopefully they can come back with another W, which will be important for us, or at least a point I think is important, because we have 6. If we have 7, if we beat Bologna, right, we end up with a 10, right? So we're well in that at least playoff spot.
Yeah.
And then we've got Barcelona and Juventus for the remaining 2 games. One of Barcelona being at home. So 2 big important games coming up in the Champions League for us. To finish off, don't forget to follow, like, share, subscribe on all the social media platforms. We greatly appreciate it. YouTube, Twitter, or X, Instagram, Twitch, Kick, TikTok, Facebook. So please take 5 seconds and give us a like, share. Also on the audio version of the podcast, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Anchor. I don't know where else it goes. Apple Podcasts. It goes to a bunch of places. I just put it up on the internet, and the internet puts it where it wants.
The Wi-Fi takes it.
The cloud. It's somewhere in the clouds. So please take a couple seconds and do that. We'd greatly appreciate it. Also, if you are local or somewhat local and you don't have tickets yet to our event January 11th,
or if you want to travel,
or if you want to travel too and you want to be part of our event, January 11th at the Milford Portuguese Club, Cantinho Benfiquista, we have planning on announcing 1 or 2 surprises over the next week. I just need to lock down some details this week, but should be a good event. So if you don't have tickets and you're looking to attend, please reach out to us. You can send us a message or reach out to one of us individually. Pedro says, good night, guys. Great show. Thank you, Pedro. Thanks for tuning in, and thanks for all your comments. We appreciate it. And yeah, that's it. So we're off next week because of the international break. We'll be back after the Stidla match to review that match and look ahead to the Monaco game, or we may just do on the evening of the Monaco game, depending on what day of the week it is, but we'll keep you guys posted. Gentlemen, as always, a pleasure. We'll be back in a week and a half. For everyone, have a good evening. Viva Sport Lisboa Benfica. Good night.
Good night, guys.